Slap Tech.
I recently reviewed this little laptop right here. It's the Lenovo 500w. It's a severely underpowered Windows 11 laptop that was designed for children to take their learning courses on that are like either SCORM or AICC courses. But somehow I got my grubby little hands on one, so naturally I'm just going to try and play PC games on it because I think I'm gonna go to hell for this. Anyway, first game up is Snake Pass. I'm playing this in 720p in the lowest details possible. Now, this guy doesn't have even a Core i3 processor. It's less than a Core i3. It's a modern processor. It's the Pentium N6000. But yes, it's under a Core i3, and its GPU it's the same architecture as Iris Xe, but Intel doesn't want to call it Iris Xe because it only has 32 execution units, which is a tad bit shy of the 92 or 96 execution units of its Core i7 brethren for Iris Xe. So this guy has very little graphics power, and here I am trying to play a relatively graphics-intensive game on it. So this is, like I said, 720p, lowest detail settings possible, and the game is playable at these detail settings, but only because it's not a reflex-oriented game. It's very much just challenging the player with, not necessarily difficult controls, but complicated controls. So we are struggling to get 30 FPS here under normal circumstances, and that's bad. This is my general benchmark game. So if a laptop can play this game at its native resolution in high details, it can play absolutely anything. That's in high details. This is low details that it can't even seem to get over 30. So, yeah, it's not gonna be great. This is gonna be quite entertaining though. So, I think we've got enough of Snake Pass in our system, so let's go ahead and move on to the next game. Next up is Valheim. Yes, we can play Valheim on a crummy little laptop like this. It doesn't run very well. It hardly runs at all, but it does run. Just like Snake Pass, it's not a reflex-oriented game most of the time when you're not fighting a boss. But in these calm little homestead moments that are free from random encounters thanks to cheating, it's very playable. It's kind of a slideshow, but overall, you know what? It works pretty well. I forgot how to play this game with a controller, so you're gonna have to watch me sift through my inventory a little bit. But as you can see, again, we're struggling to find wood. We're struggling to hit 30 FPS. And yeah, wandering outside here, we're getting below 20 when we're not lucky. And this is in the middle of the day. In the middle of the day is when Valheim frame rate is at its peak. It is the easiest to render Valheim when it's either at dead of night or in the middle of the day. The most complicated times to render Valheim are when you are transitioning between day and night. That's when the shadows are the longest and it likes to choke. In this circumstance, it's not playable anyway because, well, we just don't have a lot of processing power to work with. So, yeah, take it for what it is. If you're caught in a kind of a tense combat position in this game, yeah, you're probably gonna die because either your frame rate is too low or it's just gonna start a buffering attack on you. And in one frame you'll have life, and the next frame you will have death. And no one likes to die in Valheim. It's a big pain in the rear. So instead of trying to continue to convince you that this is powerful enough to play Valheim, let's move on to the next game. I thought I had everything correct, but no, I didn't have my lighting just the way I like it. Oh well, whatever, I'll deal with it in post. Next up is the recently in like the last year or two, remastered Quake 2 on PC. This is in 720p with all of the little tick boxes checked off. Because as you can see, you know, we're dipping below 60 FPS some of the time, not all of the time, but definitely some of the time. Definitely not a poor gameplay experience to be certain, but also not the best. Any laptop with a Core i3 or a Core i5 or a Core i7 is going to play this game. Max details, no problem, 60 FPS in 1080p. You know, I dare not say native resolution because some laptops can go over 1080p. And even laptops like the ThinkPad the ThinkPad P14S with its Radeon 780M has problems rendering this game at 120 FPS. This laptop struggles to reach 60, but still, you know, very playable, not a terribly twitchy, reflexy, responsive, reflex required kind of game. But you know, it's struggling into 60, and this is essentially the lowest you can go for detail levels. So not that great, but also not like horrible, I guess you could say. This part kind of chugs a little bit because there's multiple meat bags on the screen. But, and just remember, all of the detail levels are unchecked at this point, like the upgraded models, most of the lighting effects. So this game can actually look a little bit prettier than it does right now, but all that stuff is off because we just have a complete lack of CPU power. Hey, I think I drove the point home for this game well enough. Let's move on to something else that's hopefully easier to render than this. Man, I actually was able to jump and kill this guy in the first take, not in this take. Very disappointing. Let's just move on to the next game. It may not be a classic game, but it is a classic series. We're here in Diablo 3. Lowest of the low details in 720p. Everything that can possibly be checked off is checked off. And we are in low FX mode, or whatever they call it. We're going to go ahead and jump into a rift here, and something important to keep in mind is this game is running off of the SD card. Yes, it's running off of the micro SD card that's on here. Now, you might say, well, if you run off the SD card, of course you're going to run into poor performance, but this machine only has a 128 gig hard drive on it. Diablo 3 is a 30 gig game in itself. 30 plus gigs, in fact. So the fact of the matter is if you want to do PC gaming on this machine at all, you're probably going to have to play a game or two off of the SD card. And really, Diablo 3 is actually performing pretty well under the circumstances. So, you know, I think that playing games off the SD card on this game is a very viable way to do things, and I wholeheartedly endorse it. Well, I endorse playing games off SD cards. I don't endorse playing PC games on this laptop because, holy crap, we're not even getting 30 FPS on this thing. So, yeah, this is Diablo 3 on the Lenovo 500w, and I hope that anyone who is actually playing this game on a regular basis doesn't have to put up with frame rates like this when they're playing it. Let's move on to something else. So that Diablo 3 footage might have been slightly depressing. So to get your hopes back up, let's boot up something a little bit older, like Torchlight 2. This game came out just a little bit before Diablo 3. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. But it is a 3D PC game and it's an ARPG, and some like to say it's better than Diablo 3 anyway. That's their story and I'm sure they'd like to stick to it. But we're here in 1024 by 768 in medium details, so there are still shadows and there still are particle effects that are enabled here, and it's running at 60 FPS right now. It wasn't running at 60 FPS when we were fighting that mob just then, but in most cases, you know, it runs very smoothly. And if you want it to run even more smooth, you can always turn off those pesky lighting effects or those pesky shadows, you know. That'll help the game run a little bit smoother in most scenarios. Like here we go, we're fighting another mob and okay, yeah, the frame rate's dipping. Just ignore it and turn off the just ignore it and turn off the shadows. That'll be what saves you and your opinion of this laptop. So yeah, turn off the shadows. Hey, let's do that and see if it helps us. Particle detail low, shadow detail off, apply. Don't tell me I have to reboot. Thank you. And okay, we're fighting that mob again. And okay, yeah, we're getting higher frame rates. Not quite 60 all the time, but higher frame rates nonetheless. And it is still possible to die. I mean, it's a lot smoother. It's noticeably smoother with the shadows off when you're fighting mobs. Oh, it's one of these bastards that killed me. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. This dude is also a special guy, so let's beat the crap out of him because that's what we do to special people. And that is Torchlight 2 on the Lenovo 500w. Let's move on to some 2D games now. Yes, some 2D PC gaming should do us good and restore our faith in humanity. Let's check it out. We're playing one of my favorite 2D games now. This is Hollow Knight. This is a classic game that was released on for virtually every console. Well, it's a future classic at least. It's also not that easy to render for severely underpowered systems like this. As you can see, with all of the detail levels turned up to high, we're getting sub 60 FPS. And looking at all of the picture smoothness, you can definitely tell that it's not running as smooth as it possibly could be. So yeah, just in this intensive action sequence with this one other enemy on the screen, we're getting like just over 50. So yeah, not that great, but still pretty playable. I mean, I don't know why you'd want to play a 2D game at less than 60 FPS though. So let's go ahead and lower the detail levels here. We're gonna go to our options menu. We're gonna go to video. We're going to, first of all, turn on VSync and then turn off our particle effects and our blur quality. Well, at least set them to low. And go back and see if we can get a constantly smooth 60 FPS. This is how all 2D games should be played, in super smooth 60 FPS at all times. I need to heal before I continue, otherwise I'm going to die on camera. And nobody likes dying on camera. I certainly do not myself, and crap, I just took 2 hits right off the bat. Not fun, get out of my way. And yeah, super smooth 60 FPS on the Lenovo 500w with its severely underpowered Pentium N6000 processor. Okay, I think that was a good enough demonstration here. Let's move on to another 2D game that this laptop can handle possibly a little bit better with all the details turned on. And here we go. We are in a retro-styled game. This is Dead Cells, still for the PC, but it is available on other consoles as well, just like Hollow Knight. But Dead Cells is much more dangerous of a game, apparently, as I just died Yay, but at least I'm dying in a perfectly smooth 60 FPS. Am I right? Whatever. I'll be alright. This is super smooth gameplay. I would totally love playing more of Dead Cells on this laptop. No problem whatsoever. Hey, this has been Dead Cells on the Lenovo 500w. Enough of this retro-styled gaming. Let's get into some actual vintage retro gaming. Our first retro game that we're going to attempt to play is Citra. We are here trying to play this one, whatever game this is, and I can't remember the name of it for some silly odd reason. But we're not really getting good frame rates when the S really hits the fan. As you can see, it's audio skipping, video skipping. Just when you're playing these kind of games, if it can't play perfectly, it tends to lag a little bit, like right now. And if it's less than perfect, it's just not going to be a good experience, period. I didn't get hit by the spiny shell, but I did get hit by something else, so I'm still pissed off. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend using Citra on the 500w. This isn't even like, you can't even, what the heck? Oh, come on. Oh, are you freaking kidding me? It's all because the frame rate's lower, I'm telling you. But as you can see, not a very good experience. This is native resolution for the console too, so it really can't go any... What the heck is going on? If I still win this race, I'm gonna be like super elated. Yeah, there's nothing you can do to make it run any smoother than this. So you're kind of stuck with this crummy little performance, and definitely not how I would want to play Citra. So I would definitely want to get a more powerful laptop in order to play these games. So let's move on to something that might be a little bit easier to render. Believe it or not, this is actually easier to render than Citra. We're here in ReDream, and this is the native resolution of the console, and it's going, as you can see in the top left-hand corner, a perfectly smooth 60 FPS. So very impressive, especially for, you know, something as small and insignificant as the Lenovo 500w. So we're just going to play through one more match here just to make sure that, you know, we can get a perfectly smooth 60 all the time. But yeah, well, things are looking very good for our frame rates. And as long as you don't try and do any kind of enhancements like, you know, greater than native res, it's going to keep playing just like this for you at all the time, at all times. So yeah, not half bad. But let's move on to something else that might be a little bit surprising as far as its performance is concerned. We're playing a game here in PPSSPP, and again, we're getting 60 FPS whenever the console allows it to go 60 FPS. Very smooth performance. Of course, this is only native resolution. As you can see, this is a little bit blockier than the console we were just emulating not too long ago. And still, though, very playable experience, very enjoyable gameplay. Oh, I can shoot guys in this game? Way better than the last one that I was playing. I wish I had a gun all the time. Why am I kicking people? Just shoot them already. But yeah, no, this is a very reliable, and this is the kind of performance that you should expect for these kind of games on the Lenovo 500w. Very impressive, especially considering that, you know, PC games that may not even be as good as these games perform not as well. So, something to keep in mind when you're playing games with your little child's learning toy. Hey, let's move on to another retro console. The last mainly 3D capable console I'm going to try and play on this system is what do they call? Oh, MelonDS. So here I am playing a game in MelonDS, and it runs smoothly for the most part, but there are still some places where it doesn't really, you know, it does lag a little bit, but for the most part, you know, it's all right. I wouldn't shy away from it like I would with Citra. I would definitely still try and play games with MelonDS. Remember, retro gaming is going to give you, this type of retro gaming at least, is going to give you 6 hours of battery life, which is more to be said than any, virtually any retro handheld console on the market today. So, you know, it does have its merit in the retro gaming space. But of course, you know, it's not going to give you perfect performance. I think any one of those retro consoles is going to give you better performance than this, and more consistent better performance, that is, but not nearly as much battery life. So ups and downs, whatever. It is what it is. Let's see if we can boot up another retro console that gives us even more battery life and even more consistent performance. Here we are, we're doing some 2D retro gaming now. This is SNES 9X, and it's going at a perfectly smooth 60 frames per second when the console allows. But, you know, it doesn't have any worse performance, sorry I burped, then it doesn't have any worse performance than the original console does, which is very important to remember. If you want super cool, you know, performance, you can start emulating a different 16-bit console from this era. But if you want better games, you're going to emulate this console. I'm not biased, not at all. So just remember that when you emulate these kinds of games, you're looking at 7.25 hours of battery life. That's right, 7.25 hours. I don't know the kind of battery life you're getting from retro gaming consoles, but that is a force to be reckoned with, if you ask me. So yeah, you might want to consider bringing this on your next camping trip instead of one of those little handheld mini thingies. Just saying. Anyway, this has been and always shall be gaming on the Lenovo 500w. If you have any questions or comments, please put them down below, and I will try my best to allow other people to answer them first before I get to them. Means I'm just going to wait and see what happens. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that, but I do have a review of this laptop. It is linked in the description below, so you can see a full-on review of it that I published just recently, and it covers more aspects than just gaming of the Lenovo 500w, guaranteed. So it should answer any other questions that you have about this notebook, and even about, like, you know, what's internal, what its internals are, what all you can upgrade in it, which is nothing. I just solved the review for you, but still, please watch it. I put a lot of work into it, as I do with all of my reviews. I'm gonna have to save this just in case I die. Anyway, once again, this has been gaming with the Lenovo 500w. You guys, that was a close call. But anyway, thanks for watching, and you guys have a good night.